Welcome back to the garage where we're going to start staining the piece. In order to get you set up for what you're going to need, I've laid out pretty much everything that I've got cooking here. First of all, obviously I've got the pieces of the table. My biggest thing that I always forget to tell people, and this is also something that I should probably make mention of. Again, you want a fresh sheet. This one is fresh from, I took it and I washed it out, got rid of the dust and stuff like that, vacuumed it all out, made sure that everything was clean. Again, nice and fresh. Even if it's just you take it outside, you shake it out, get the dust out of it. You just don't want contaminants between the stages because it really does mess things up. And you won't notice it until you're in the middle of it and you're putting enough work into this thing that you don't want to screw it up. So second thing that's important is when you do disassemble your piece like I've done here, make sure that you find all of the pieces. I've done this more than a few times where I'll be working on something, I've got like drawers pulled out, I've got stuff hanging around, I've got little pieces taken off of stuff. I get everything ready to go, I've got everything triple glossed, ready to go back together. I look in the corner and there is a raw piece of something that I have sanded but have not stained or glossed or anything, and it's a major downer when you suddenly decide that, okay, now I gotta go back and stain this thing, and now I gotta go back and triple gloss this thing, and now I can reassemble the whole thing. It's like you're this far away, but then you gotta redo 2 stages just for this little piece or something. I almost forgot this rim when I was moving stuff around. So, got all my pieces, got my Kona stain. Now again, this thing says it dries in an hour. First of all, don't believe that. It's kind of like when people say, you know, the check's in the mail, or I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Might be partially true, but probably not entirely true. I'll show you how to check for dryness once we get into the next video before we gloss it. Also, if it's not dry, it will start messing with your gloss and then everything gets all schmutzed up. So, you know, you wanna kind of treat these claims a little kind of, like sort of, like they're almost true. Got my trusty chip brush here, brand new chip brush. It's gonna be used on this and then nothing else. Got myself a screwdriver to open this thing up. Mixing stick. Here's one that I've used on a bunch of different things. I got a piece of paper towel, because once I mix it up, I'm just gonna wipe it off and be done with it. And then this will dry someplace else. I've got paper towel here only in case I do something stupid and drop something and get something messy. You do not want to use paper towel on any of the pieces that you've got here. What you want to use is you want to use cotton rags. This is an old t-shirt that I ripped up into pieces. I've got a backup here from, I don't know where the heck this thing's, okay, it was a Wisconsin Badger State Games t-shirt. Again, go to rummage sales, go to like flea markets, go to, you know, pretty much anywhere you want to that has, you know, somebody trying to sell out of t-shirts. I always feel bad for people when they see me coming at rummage sales. Like, I had this happen where this lady was selling off all of her daughter's t-shirts. Her daughter was like a teenager or something like that. And she had all these stacks of t-shirts for like $0.10 a piece. And I'm just walking away with stacks of these t-shirts, and this woman's looking at me like I'm, you know, gonna be on like To Catch a Pedophile at some point, because she knows that there's something wrong with me picking up all these t-shirts. But you go through them like crazy, and you don't want to run out of them. You want the cotton because it's not gonna leave anything behind. It's gonna strip it well. It's gonna get the crud off of there that you want gotten off of there. After you put your layer of gloss on, after you put your layer of stain on, you want a nice clean. You want no extra dripping and residue stuff. And you don't want to use towels, like terry cloth towels. You don't want to use sheets or blankets. You don't want to use like those Under Armour or those microfiber things. Any one of those things are bad. Literally, the old-fashioned cotton t-shirts work the best. You know, go raid your closet and figure out what you've got. Every so often, I'll go through all my t-shirts and my undershirts and anything else and just create a big pile that I take out here and sacrifice to the god of furniture staining. So, let's get started. Get a screwdriver, crank this puppy open. Also, don't misplace your lid. You want to keep it close so that you don't forget to put that back on. Take your mixing stick, put it in there. You want to push to the bottom and you want to just kind of stir it around. You want it to make sure that it's nice and mixed. Now with this, it's a little bit thicker of a stain than I tend to like, but again, it was the only thing that came in this color, so that's why we're using it. But I do like to make sure I get down to the bottom, because a lot of times the stain will slightly separate, or you'll get kind of like an oily residue on the top, and you don't want your project getting screwed up because you don't have this thing completely mixed. So, you know, go down to the bottom, kind of give yourself a once over. You don't have to turn this into a blender or anything, but you know, once you're kind of done, you know, let the stuff drip off of it, give it the old slide, you're done. Toss that to the side, get that out of there. All right, we're gonna start with a leg, because that's gonna be the easiest for you to see here for what we're doing. When it comes to putting stain on, again, you're not painting the Sistine Chapel at all. You're just trying to get every edge of this thing covered. When you get into those grooves, you know, you can dab in there, get in the nooks and crannies, make sure that you're getting everything kind of covered over. And again, with this kind of a stain, you can really tell the difference. The darkness of the stain, you're gonna tell if you're missing a spot. And if you happen to miss something on the surface, you know, you leave a spot like, okay, I missed this spot here, don't worry, because that's gonna go away once we get a little bit further into this. But don't put too much on. You know, this is one of those times where you can always go over it a little extra later. Not later in the process, but I mean later while you're still working on it. What you don't want is this thing getting all drippy and gucky. With the stripper that we used, we were like, you know, don't be cheap with it. With this, you know, don't go overboard. You just want to make sure that you're getting enough of it in there. You don't want to be dripping or kind of. You'll notice I'm kind of spritzing a little bit, but you're trying not to flick, because A, you'll find stain in all sorts of places of your house and garage you didn't know about, and B, sometimes if you flick and it gets on like one of the pieces that's nearby. Usually if I were doing this without putting it on video, I'd put all my other pieces somewhere else and just work on these one at a time at the table, but I wanted you to see all the pieces. But a lot of times what'll happen is you'll flick and it'll get on kind of your other pieces. It's not doing that here, thankfully, which means I'm sure I'll see it happening at some point. But, you know, again, I just noticed I missed a little spot, kind of get it in there and things like that. But, yeah, you just want to get it all on there. You know, with a piece like this, I'm going to rotate it a little bit, look at it from different angles, you know, turn it upside down, because I just noticed there's a spot on the bottom of the leg, like right there. It's like a big blank spot, so I'm touching that up. Also, you can look at the undercarriage here. Not every, there's a little spot right there that I need to get. So when you are working on a piece, you want to look at it from every possible angle. You don't want to think, well, it looks good from the top. Well, yeah, but when you flip it over, if something's missing, it'll bug the hell out of you. If you're anything like me, it will bug you when you see something that you should have caught that you didn't catch. In a lot of cases, I tell people that when I work on projects, I don't see the finished project as much. I just really tend to notice the flaws more than anything. So again, once you got that on there, I don't like to let it sit too long, because if it sits too long, first of all, it starts getting thick and gucky, especially this 1 hour stuff. If I'm trying to let it soak in a little bit more, fine. But at the end of the day, the wood is the boss when it comes to this, unfortunately, for what we want. So you'll notice that, you know, when we started with the black, and I'm going to kind of come over here and show you a little bit more. When I'm taking this down, you know, it is dark, but it's not as dark as it looked when it was kind of painted on there. So you've got, you know, only so much dark that's going to happen on this thing. One of my favorite customers, I love her to death. She's my real estate lady. She brings me a ton of work because people will see something in her house and she'll tell them, oh yeah, I know a guy who can do that for you. Or you know, one of her clients will be looking to move, and you know, she'll notice a piece of furniture and the lady will say, oh, I wish I'd have had that redone. She's like, well, I got a guy and he's great. So I love Chris to death, but Chris loves really dark furniture, and she picks out really light oak furniture to get dark, and she wants the stuff like black as night. And I have to keep trying to explain to her, there's only so much that wood is going to allow you to do. Now you'll notice here that it's getting kind of thick on the rag. So you want to keep making sure that you're giving yourself new rag space, because it'll take more off, which is fine. And again, this is going to change color at least twice